Hello, welcome to Mix Training. This is Varomix, and today we're gonna see how to flake cubes and switch the texture using Mops. Alright guys, so maybe you've heard about the new Mops, which is the motion operators that a few guys made. We're gonna talk about that in a second. But this is the effect that we're gonna try to do, or we're gonna do actually. You can see there's some cubes that have two textures, one on the top and one on the bottom, and then we flip them with this really nice transition, and they rotate and they drop on the other side, and they reveal the second image like that. So it's actually going to be really simple. The motion operators do a lot of the work here. We're gonna do some work setting up the textures and stuff, but it's gonna be really simple actually and really fast. So let's talk about the motion operators. Here you can see motionoperators.com. You can go there to get them. They are free and they are open. You can get them on GitHub here. There's also you should go and check out their tutorials. There's explanations for everything and getting started and installing the operators. It's a really nice documentation they have here. So this is the GitHub where you will get it, and I really recommend you get it the GitHub way. That's how the pros like me, that's how we do it. We need to do it like that, so it's so you have stuff to update it quickly, because this is being developed a lot. So do it like they recommend here. Get the git clone there. Let's say I'm gonna put it, I don't know. Let me just fake that I'm gonna put it here because I have it in other place. Let's say I want to put it here. I open a command line and I clone them there, and you can see it's cloning that. It's done. It's gonna be here, Mops, and you should get this directory. Then you put it into your Houdini.env file. Use this variable and then add that to your Houdini OTL scan path. So you basically need to modify this line with the location of that. The good thing doing it like this is when you go again to that repository, you can see you can see here, this is Mops. Whenever there's an update, you can just say git pull, and it will pull any changes there are in the repository, and then you can relaunch Houdini and you should have the new version already. So I really recommend you do it the GitHub way. I mean, pull it like this as a repository, so you can keep it updated as they update their stuff. Again, I'm not gonna talk about every single detail. Go to their own tutorials to get started, but I'm gonna tell you a little bit of what I'm doing here. So let's go to the scene that I have here. And here's the scene. I have a few less cubes just for interaction, but you can see this is basically real time, mostly. So I have, let me unlock that. So this has one texture on this side and one texture on the other side. And there's just cubes flipping. They are rotating and going up. You can see this area here moves them up, which if I don't want to, I can just rotate them like that, flipping the cubes. And this other area, these two nodes, do the flipping. If I don't do that, they're just gonna be racing up and not flipping around. So it's actually very simple. You can see the whole Mops setup is actually that part there, and then this stuff is just for adding the textures. And that's it. It's really simple. So let's start doing this from scratch, and we can see how I did it. Alright, so I have a new scene here. I'm gonna create a box, and if you don't know, I'm using my tab 2 tool. If you want to get it, you can get it from our site. It is not free, but you can buy it from us, and it's amazing. And alright, let's start with a box. This is gonna be the object that we're gonna clone. And we need an instancer, Mops instancer. That's what we're gonna use to make the clones. And if you're familiar with Cinema 4D, this is these motion operators are inspired by the MoGraph nodes. So if you know Cinema, you might be feel at home with the motion operators. All right, so we need to create one instance object entry here. Drag that. That's basically that. You have that stuff. But I don't really want to do that. I want to put them on a grid, and I will tell you why. Because this way you can say the distribution, you can set it to, let's say I want to have more cubes in this direction and that direction, and maybe make the step 1, because I think the cube is 1 in all sides. So you can see I could do that, but if I want more cubes here, it's gonna start expanding, and I don't want it to expand. I want to keep it on the same size, but just add more. And maybe there is a way to do it here, but I haven't found it. So I just use the mesh method, which is basically cloning to the points, basically kind of like a copy to points. And that's what I'm using. So I'm gonna change this to mesh and put this as the mesh. You can see it's gathering by default, but I don't want that. Put it on the points. Now it does that. We should just copying this number of points to this number of copies to the points. If I raise this, you can see it starts filling up. But I don't want that. I just want to set just float the mesh. Just put one in at each point, and that's what I want. Now the other thing is the size. So I wanna link these two guys here. I want to link that to that, so I just want to change one. So you can see now if I add more, they start to just be on top of each other. So let's go here, and right here the size is 1. We can change the size here. So we have 10 by 10 here. Actually, if we put 11, that should fit perfectly, right? So let's say we get this number of rows. Let's copy that to here and put the relative reference there. Divide 1 by that number. Put 1 at the beginning. Divided by this number plus 1. So basically, that's exactly what I don't want. Sorry, I want to divide this by 0.1. Is it? Oh, there did it. Hold on a second. Oh, sorry. I don't want to divide this. I want to multiply. Sorry, by 1. There we go. So basically, we are back to what we had before, but this is just, I don't want this guys to have this gap. So I'm gonna add to this rows 1 unit before I multiply it, plus 1. So no, I'm gonna subtract 1. Sorry, again, wrong direction. So now I have them just be a grid like this. So I'm just calculating the scale of the cubes based on the size of these rows. Now if I add more or remove, they are not growing. They're not growing. Just the cubes are growing, and it's expanding a little bit to the sides and expanding and contracting a little bit, but it's keeping the size as I want. So I don't want to have that much cubes, but at the end of the render, I actually put like 50 of those or something like that. All right. So now another thing that I want to do here early is just put a transform here after this, and just I want to make my trick here. So just use to put this on the ground, use y minimum and subtract y minimum here, y min. I'll just put the pivot at the bottom and subtract that bottom to put this at the floor, and this helps me when I do this. It's always gonna stay on the floor. You can see that is always on the floor, and that's what I want. I don't want this to be on top of the floor because we're gonna render that later. So now we're gonna start with the Mops with the Mops setup. So let's put a shape fall off, and the shape fall off, it's really cool. It's like it's one of those fall offs that the cinema has. You can make it bigger. You can see there's 2 handles there. You might be able, yeah, there we go. You can see the handles there, or just they're not handles actually. They're just showing you where the effect starts and ends. So you can see it's affecting there. I can move it around, which is something that we are going to do. We're going to animate this, and let's make this, I don't know, 5 wide, or no, it's too wide for this. I think 4. Let's give it 4. So this is basically just a gradient that's going to be affecting these copies. And these copies, once you start to use them with Mops, they're basically just backed primitives, or it kind of treats them like points in a way. So now to flip them, it's pretty simple actually. So this is just basically what area we're going to affect, and then we do something to affect it. In our case, we want something to transform it, so let's go for the Mops transform modifier. So the modifier, you can see it does nothing because everything, it's not anything, it's the same values, but we can start modifying. Let's say that translate wide, and you can see that it's translating based off that, in that fall off, using that fall off, and we can move the fall off, and you can see that's what we can do. And you can already see maybe what we're going to be doing with this. So I don't want to transform this. I want to rotate this. I want to rotate this 180, and you can see they are rotating now. Some of them are halfway there, and they are rotating now. You can see they are flipping. We can see what's happening. Maybe let's go to the box again, and let's put a null here, because we're going to do a few things to this object, and select it here. Don't forget to change your instance there, so we can get the result of this. So we can go here, and let's say we want to, let's assign color to this face, and let's make that red, and let's go over to the under, and let's make this blue, just so we can see. Oh, blue. Oh, that's green. Let's do it green. Green is fine. Okay, just so we can see these guys flipping here. So now if we go to Mops here, you can see we have our color, and they are flipping. The fall off is not animated at this moment, but they are all red, and then we go here, and then we flip them to green. And that's exactly what we're going to do. It's not as simple, because we are going to assign textures to this, and this is just not one object. So we're going to do a few things to fix that. But now we have that. It's pretty simple. Let's go to the to here and create another shape fall off. And actually, let's animate this one first. Let's move it all the way here. We're going to move it like 10. Let's put it to 12. And keyframe it at the first frame, and then go to 48, and then put -12, so it moves to the other side, and now it's animated, and it's just doing that. All right, we're just flipping those guys right now, because that's the only thing we did here. I'm gonna do the other one separately, because I want to modify the fall off a little bit. So let's just copy this fall off. I'll drag it here. And then we can, this fall off, let's put it in the middle here. We're looking at this one right now. And, but you can see this fall off, it's already in the previous one, because we are setting this to set. We can go to the remap, and remap section. Let's, I'm not sure if I need to activate this. Yeah, I need to activate the fit for this ramp to be available. And what I want is just this one to affect only the middle part, because you can see it's affecting when it goes on, but then it leaves the objects behind the way they were, because I'm just gonna raise the objects with this ramp there. So let's make this guy smooth, changes that to cal move roll. And now let's create another transform modifier. And in this one, we're going to move the pieces up. But you can see this is, I'm trying to move them up, and they're moving like in a different way. They're moving weird. And this is because by default, this is in local space. The pieces are rotating, and their local Y, it's being rotated as well. So let's uncheck local space so we can just move them up in the Y direction. You can see they are working exactly as we want, and basically the effect is it's completely done by now. It's just we're flipping the flipping cubes and they work. They are just flipping from red to green, or they looks like it's happening. So now we are doing that, and that is what it's all about. And we can actually do more things to this. So we can go out to the noise and apply some noise to this fall off, so it's not that straight out of the just like you can see now we're having some noise there, and some of the cubes will rotate first and then others will rotate later, stuff like that. So you can actually change the amplitude of this. So you can see now some of them are rotating before others, and that's pretty cool. So it doesn't look that that weird. So I just you can mess with the frequency if you want. I'm not gonna mess with this. You can experiment on your own. See, but you can change that stuff there, and I just made higher the final amplitude as well. You can do the same for this one. Go to the noise, apply it, and make it a little bit higher here. So now some of them will rise before the others. You can see some of them start first and then go down later. So now you can, this is a little bit too much. Let me reduce that a little bit. You can do whatever you want here. All right, looking cool here. So now how do you do the texture import? So we can actually just texture these guys directly because these guys are packed geometry. So what are we gonna do first is let's just clear the color that we just added there. And I don't want these colors, so I don't want any color there. And but what I want is I want to make 2 groups here. So I'm gonna create 2 groups here. I'm gonna create, so you can see I create a group with 5 and 4 here for those. So I'm gonna just go to this guy, select the top one and select create group, and I'm gonna name this top group. Remove those guys, I don't need them. So now I'm gonna do the same for the bottom, S4, and select the group, and I'm gonna name this bottom group. All right, so now we have that set up there, which means those groups will pass along to this setup and they will be here. If you can see right now, they aren't, because we still have a packed geometry. So what we need to do is we need to unpack this, and we use the unpacked, and now with the unpacked we have our 2 groups here, which is pretty cool. And those groups should match the groups that we added. One is going to be from the top and the other one's on the bottom. We can confirm that by adding color and assign it to one of those. You can see now I'm assigning to the bottom because that's when they already flipped. So, and I can assign this to the top, and you can see it is working. All right, so we have our groups correctly done. So what we are going to do now is project some textures. So let's use a UV project. In this case, we're going to use the UV project. Don't use the UV texture, because the UV texture is going to recalculate every time the bounding box. In this case, we can just say initialize the bounding box, and it's going to stay like that. And it's going to be the bounding box exactly as this size. And that's why I wanted to make it like this, not scaling this after or anything like that. because if we do that, the texture is not gonna fit, right? It's not gonna match. So we do this, but we're gonna project this only to the top group. So let's do it with two different groups here. So it's gonna do that for the group, for the top group, and we can create a quick shade, UV quick shade, to see what's happening. You can see now the top has UVs and the bottom doesn't. But if we do the flipping, you can see that is already working, and texture is sticking to the objects. And this is thanks to the guys from the guys from Mops create a rest attribute, which is great. They have a rest attribute that before they even start moving stuff, they create a rest attribute, and that means that the texture will stick to the objects, and that's what's happening here. So now we can create another, let's create this, call it this top, and we can do whatever here. We can put the mandrel. So I know so much Houdini that I already know that name. Whoa, I'm an expert. So let's just copy this setup, connected here. This is gonna be bottom, and this is gonna be bottom. So now we just change the groups here to the bottom, and here I put another picture like butterfly, but the butterfly has, I think the butterfly has, sorry, the butterfly has, all right, I'm just gonna use that because the butterfly has an alpha, and this one has an alpha as well. Anyway, I'm just gonna go with this for now. What's happening here? We have this on the bottom group, initialize, and we go to this. All right, I need to select the groups on these ones as well, on the quick shade, sorry, the top, and that is working now. You can see that we have the mandrel first, and then we go and flip it, and then it's the Houdini logo there, which is not looking great. Let's just put the UVs for now. That looks pretty cool. Now, this is just this is just basically all the setup. Once you have this, you just need to create your shaders and assign them to those different groups, and then you're set. That's basically it. That is basically it. The rest of this is just creating shaders, assigning it, and the other thing I did is actually just said, at the end of this, I said like, let's just bevel this, and if you do these groups before and stuff, it works. Let's just add more divisions maybe and make it this 0.2, a little bit bigger there. And now if you go all the way to the end, those cubes now are beveled with the power of proceduralism in Houdini. So you can see you can just assign, just make a material node here, use whatever renderer you want. I use Redshift, but I just assign one shader for the bottom and one shader for the top here, and this will render exactly as you want. And of course, you might want to go, or not, maybe, I don't know. You might want to go and add more of these cubes here, and the noise looks better when there's a lot more cubes, but it gets a little bit slower. Let's see, maybe that might be the unpacking. Yeah, the unpacking is what it's making it a little bit slower here. This is making this separate pieces of geometry, but now you can have that and start tweaking it. You can see the noise a little bit better here, and you can start playing with your new cubes and your new setup. And when you're ready to render, you just select your final render, assign your shaders, and you're all set. Alrighty, hope you enjoyed that one. That was this quick, and you could always done this with Houdini, but you can see with this new fall-ups, I think is the best thing that the best part of Mops, I think, are these fall-ups that you can modify, animate, and all stuff really quickly. You can do that with attributes as well in Houdini, and this is basically what's happening in the backend with those, just attributes. But the Mops guys are doing that simpler for us and more visible. And sometimes people don't understand stuff when they can't see it. And that's why I always use attributes with colors and stuff like that, so I can visualize what's happening. But this is actually really simple. The tools are really well implemented, and they're pretty fast. So I really recommend you go check them out and make your new motion graphics with Houdini. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next one, and let's keep learning together. Bye!